Today's video is not a wish list nor predictions video for iOS 12, more of commentary on a very popular theory about the next generation of iOS. So what necessarily is that theory? Did you not read the title? Were you more focused on commenting first? Whatever. The issue is a lot of people are complaining about the fact that iOS 11 was a very bug-filled operating system. There were a lot of glitches. There have been a lot of software patches, meaning that it's only February and we're already on like iOS 11.3 because there's been so many re-additions to iOS 11 that iOS 12 will not focus too much on new features or new designs. It will primarily be an iOS update that is focused on reliability, removing those bugs and becoming more stable. I'm sadly here to destroy those rumors and say I don't think that's what's going to happen, and on top of that, it'll be kind of difficult to know if it's actually going to happen. So first off, we've been seeing tons of rumors about people saying that, you know, here's a big list of things that Apple would like to add in iOS 12, but they're not going to, in an effort to just focus on reliability and optimization. Because iOS is so bug-riddled, they're just going to take a whole year just to focus on making sure they iron everything out and everything works. Problem one I have with this rumor is no matter what iOS update or any software update you do, by the way, no matter what kind of operating system refresh you have in store, it is going to have bugs. This is not something that one day we just won't have to worry about. I'm in the personal belief that technology, software, hardware will always require human tinkering. There will always be that camera bump. There will always be that software glitch. There will never be a point in which technology can thrive without us. I think that's in its nature. Even in the forms of AI, you know, there's still some kind of human-made source powering the computer that is allowing it to think, right? So I think the biggest issue I have with this rumor is if you developed a software update that was specifically designed to be reliable and optimized, now any kind of bug, any kind of glitch that operating system will have, which it would be inevitable. Critics and reviewers like me would be exponentially upset by that, because it means that, well, the whole purpose of this iOS update was to be reliable and not have as many glitches, and yet here's a glitch. So now we have even more things to get upset about. People getting into the beta program on iOS 12 especially would be running into glitches, which is funny because if iOS 12's primary purpose is to not have bugs, not have glitches, and then has a beta program so that they could find all the glitches first off, very, very ironic, and it's kind of a death loop to be like, we made this OS to not have bugs, and yet we need you to help us find all the bugs. So from a marketing standpoint, I don't think that would work. For several reasons also. I don't think Apple could go out on stage and say, iOS 11 was a mistake. We're sorry. Nothing worked, and we apologize for that. Companies, and this doesn't apply to just Apple, this is Google, Microsoft, Samsung, it's very hard to acknowledge that they made a mistake. But if I was to give credit to anyone for acknowledging their mistakes, it would be Samsung. They very clearly and directly addressed the Note 7 in their keynotes, which I thought was good. But for the most part, when it's just like software glitches and stuff, Apple, Google, they're not going to bring that up during a keynote. In the same way, Google's not going to bring up that they defended the headphone jack before the Pixel 2 came out. That's just not in a company's nature to admit that they have all these problems. I think that every single year, Apple is always trying to find new ways to get people excited to update their phones again. Somehow they've always made it possible, especially with me. I get iOS 8 and I go, this is a lot better than I thought. This is pretty good. I have no idea what they're going to do next year. iOS 9 comes out and I go, whoa, this is a lot better. I really like this. What could they possibly change? iOS 10 comes out. Oh my God. I love how all the widgets are matching and notifications look. This is really great. How could they make it better? iOS 11 comes out. Wow, how did we ever live without this? That's kind of been my history with iOS updates. Have there been glitches along the way? Of course, there always are. But personally, maybe just we're not remembering clearly, I don't think iOS 11 was filled with more bugs than most operating systems. Or if there were more bugs, I think the bugs that iOS 10 and 9 had were far more severe. I can't remember correctly because I don't think I was a full-time YouTuber at the time, but I think it was either iOS 9 or iOS 10 in which the first initial public release, not even the developer program, not even the beta program, the first update of iOS 10 or 9 that came out, it deactivated everyone's cellular service. As in no one could get texts, use the phone, or have data. And Apple quickly, in a matter of hours, had to issue iOS 10.0.1 or 10.1 or whatever it was to very quickly fix that very major bug. Now, in my opinion, deactivating cellular on anyone who updated his account would be a much more severe problem than what most people have been saying with iOS 11. Perhaps the reason I'm having a hard time understanding these rumors is I use an iPad, I use an iPhone 10, I even use an iPhone 7 Plus on occasion, and the iOS 11 bugs, while they may be there occasionally, I don't think are that severe. I don't think that the bugs and glitches are worthy enough to start delaying features or to start making operating system upgrades not as significant, because we need to focus more on that. My issue with the idea of stopping development of new features and new ideas or new designs for the sake of squashing bugs is that bugs will always be there. In fact, as long as you're making changes to the operating system, as long as you're changing designs or layouts, you're writing new code, and when you write new code, bugs are going to form. And Apple only has so many people. They may be a very rich company with a lot of money, but when you issue a software update out to tens of millions of devices, there are going to be some people that are experiencing different things than Apple is. They can't test every single scenario. They can sure try, but they're not going to catch everything. That's what makes it a bug. It's kind of unpredictable. It's kind of random. If we could predict what it was, it wouldn't be a bug. So I don't think that iOS 12 is necessarily going to be a boring update. I'm anticipating that, like iOS 11, there's a lot of surprises it has in store for us. Before iOS 11 came out, I kind of thought 10 is so nice. I love how all the widgets match. I like how Control Center works. It just makes so much sense. I think that iOS 11 is not going to be a major update. It's going to be like the iOS 8 update, which is just kind of little tweaks on iOS 7, which was a much more massive update, and we probably haven't had an update as massive since iOS 7, and yet iOS 11 comes out. Now we have screen recording. We have this beautiful new Control Center. It took a long time, but we finally got iCloud messages. We got Apple Pay Cash. All these things that I really, really wanted but didn't see happen. Of course, it took a lot longer than it should have, but I don't think that by any means implies that the next update should have very little changes, as long as we just focus on making it optimized. Apple shouldn't do that, because then all reviewers out there are going to be hypercritical, because anytime there is a glitch with iOS 12, everyone's gonna freak out and say, this was supposed to not happen. It's like bugs and glitches are never supposed to happen. And for two, while the glitches may be noticeable for a lot of people in iOS 11, I think that all of us are in an increasingly larger field of YouTube and journalism where everyone needs something to report on. And in my opinion, based on my personal experience, having not experienced that many bugs with iOS 11, I think that a lot of journalists out there or a lot of YouTubers are making iOS 11 out to be a lot worse of an update than it really was. I think every iOS update has major bugs and major flaws that sometimes take a whole year to crank out and fully fix. I don't think iOS 11 is showing any worse development. There were tons of bugs and glitches with previous iOS updates. I think the difference now, though, is a lot of people need something to report on. They need content, and anytime there's some minor glitch in iOS 11, like the flashlight icon's not showing up, this random character that no one ever uses now crashes your phone, which, by the way, the more you report on that, the worse the problem gets. If everyone just stopped talking about that, it wouldn't be an issue. But we need content, so let's crank it out. Find problems with Apple, like if you put a HomePod on a poorly finished piece of wooden furniture, it leaves marks, just like any other speaker, but we need something to complain about for Apple. That's how I kind of look at the iOS 11 situation. It's people needing something to report on, therefore saying that iOS 12 was meant to have all these great things, but it won't. I think it's going to be kind of massive. There might be some minor design tweaks, but they're likely thinking of a lot of things that we're not considering. Apple this year has gotten a lot of complaints about notification management, so my prediction is they're going to focus primarily on notification managing with the next iOS 12 update, but of course we're not going to know that until June anyway. And personally, I have a very hard time believing leaks for iOS updates because all of that is kept internal at Apple. It's not built by some Chinese company. Software updates are a lot harder to leak, in my opinion, which means that no one really knows what's going to happen. Let me know what you think's going to happen with iOS 12 in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.